Okay, so to find the missing measure, on number 1, we want to find what that hypotenuse is. If you remember, the c squared is a hypotenuse. Okay, this is a leg of the right triangle. This is the leg of the right triangle. On right triangles, the hypotenuse is always the largest. Okay, so here we go. So we're going to do 4 squared plus 3 squared equals c squared. And we solve it. By the way, do you guys see, that's called a Pythagorean triple. Has anybody ever been taught Pythagorean triples? Okay, 3, 4, what would it be? On the hypotenuse, does anybody remember? It's actually 3, 4, 5. Right triangle, it's a special thing. Anyways, 4 squared is 16, 3 squared is 9, c squared is c squared. That's 25 equals c squared. Square root both sides. And we only want, by the way, it's positive and negative 5, but we can't have a negative distance. So c is, 5 centimeters is our answer. That make sense? Okay, why don't you and your role partner work through, I know I only did one example, but you guys have done this, you guys have all done this before in middle school at some point. Do that one, do this one, and do this one. Okay, so do those 3 and then we'll talk about it. Cool? All right, here we go. So the 2 legs of the right triangle are 10 and 25, so we get 10 squared plus 25 squared equals c squared. That's 100 plus, what is that, 625 is c squared. So we get 725 equals c squared. It'd be nice if those, what the heck? Oh, geez. Okay, so 725 equals c squared. So square root both sides, you get square root 725. Well, c equals c, right? And c was 26.9. Was that what you guys got? Inches. So 26.9 inches. Make sure you put the units down just for emphasis. I know c, it says c inches as a hypotenuse, but just for emphasis. So number 3, you would do 20 squared plus b squared equals 33 squared. 20 squared is going to be 400 plus b squared equals, what's 33 squared? 1089. So then subtract 400 from both sides. So you get 689. Square root that. B is the square root of 689, which is about what? 26.2. 0.3-ish feet, right? Any questions so far? Okay, let's keep going then. So a squared plus 3 squared equals 4.5 squared. A squared plus 9 equals, what is that? 4.5 squared? 20.25, so a squared equals 11.25. Right, square root both sides, a equals what? 3.35 meters. Okay, that is actually stuff that you kind of did in middle school, I believe. We're going to go back to a little bit more of what high school is like, or a little bit more of the high school standard stuff. Notice 10 and 14, are those are the exact same thing, aren't they? It's just you don't have a picture. So just if you were to do those, just draw a picture. We're not gonna draw a picture. We're not even going to do those. We're just going to skip for the interest of time, okay? That make sense? Okay, back to ones that are more similar to what we need to deal with in high school. We need to see if 3 sides of a triangle actually give us a right triangle, because it's not necessarily a right triangle, okay? For a triangle to be a right triangle, it has the 2 legs. The squares of the lengths of the legs of the triangle, that's a little wordy, have to equal the square of the hypotenuse, which just means in order for it to actually be a right triangle, that has to be true in terms of the legs of the right triangle and the hypotenuse. Does that make sense? If that does not equal each other, then it cannot be a right triangle, is the converse of that. We okay on that? That makes sense? So if we're checking if it's a right triangle, we check it in the Pythagorean theorem. If the Pythagorean theorem does not hold true for those side lengths, then it's not a right triangle. Cool? But the one question that we have to ask, how do we know which one we should put in for C? How do we know which one we should put in for C? The largest one on all four of them. Yeah. Put the largest side in for C, okay? Because the hypotenuse is always the largest side if it's a hypotenuse. Learn to talk. If it's a hypotenuse. Does that make sense? Okay. If that doesn't make sense, okay, if you kind of get that or you forget tonight, check out the video online and just zoom to that explanation part. Okay? And go back to that and think, this is why I'm doing it. Because you have to be successful, you have to get to tier 3. Tier 1, rubbish. Tier 2, the what? Tier 3, the why. Okay? Get to the why. Anyways, okay, so let's do it. Is this the case? The question is, does this hold true? Is 3 squared plus 4 squared equal to 5 squared? Yes, we already did that up above, right? So yes, it's a right triangle. Okay. Okay, number 19. Does it hold true? Is 1 squared plus 1 squared equal to 2 squared? Is that accurate? It's 1 plus 1. Is that equal to 4? No, not a right triangle. You guys with me on these? Work with your role partner. Do the next two. Okay, here we go again. Guys, you need to check whether the Pythagorean theorem holds true. If the Pythagorean theorem holds true, then it is a right triangle. Remember, we're going to pick the largest side to make our C value, because if it is a right triangle, the hypotenuse is the longest side. Okay? So we did 5 squared plus 10 squared equals 15 squared. Is that true? You get 25 plus 100 equals 225. That is not true, right? It's not a right triangle. Some other triangle, we don't know what kind of triangle it actually is, but it's not a right triangle, that's for sure. Okay, same thing is true, but on 23, we set it up 14 squared plus 48 squared plus 50 squared. Well, we get 2,500 equals 2,500, and then, yes, that's true. That statement is true. That means it's accurate. You know, the Pythagorean theorem holds true for it being a triangle, which means being, you know, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Therefore, it is officially a right triangle. Okay? Cool? Okay. Of course, you guys are good.